Hello, friends. Did you know that nearly 80% of those who watch my videos aren't subscribed? If you enjoy the content, I'd truly appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button. It helps a lot. Also, don't forget to leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments. Your interaction not only supports the channel's growth, but also helps these stories reach more people. Thank you all for being here. By the way, where are you watching from? Let me know in the comments. It was a little past midnight when my phone vibrated. A familiar notification sound on the screen. Another ping, another passenger. Picking up passengers from the airport is usually easy. Load the luggage, enter the address, have a quiet ride, collect the fare. But that night, the name that appeared on the screen caught my attention. Eulalie Marchand. It was a strange name. The flight details, terminal number, even the late arrival note were all there. When the system automatically displayed Terminal 2 arrivals, I turned the wheel and headed for the highway. It was 2:47 a.m. Traffic was almost non-existent. Only the occasional truck or night service vehicle passed by. My name is Thaddeus Kincaid. I've been doing this job for 6 years. I've always loved airport runs. Little talk, long distances, clean money. But what happened that night made me think twice about picking up passengers from the terminal again. Approaching Terminal 2 arrivals, the clock hit 3:03. As far as I knew, no major flights landed at that hour. The last charters were usually done by 1 in the morning. Still, there was a name on the screen, an address, a request. I trusted the app. Sometimes flights get delayed, sometimes private jets land. I came around the rotary to the terminal entrance, parked in that yellow-lit area where valets and cabbies wait. A couple of security guards were on smoke break. A valet cart sat empty. The screen showed the passenger waiting at this location, but I couldn't see anyone outside. I called. The number rang and rang. No answer. I sent a message. Terminal 2 arrivals, white Camry. No response. I waited 10 minutes. Cancellation rights were kicking in, but I didn't want to lose the tip. Airport pickups were usually generous passengers. Then my phone vibrated again. A message, Terminal 3 arrivals, sorry for confusion. I cursed under my breath, but hit the gas. Terminal 3 was 5 minutes from Terminal 2, just another loop around the access road. The fare was still good, and confusion about terminals wasn't uncommon. Some passengers can't tell the difference between domestic and international gates. I pulled up to Terminal 3 at 3:11. The arrivals curb was completely empty except for one other sedan, dark blue, parked about 50 yards down with its lights off. I texted again, Terminal 3 now, white Camry. This time, the response came fast. See you in 2 minutes. I put the car in park and kept the engine running, watching the automatic doors. Nobody came out. I looked at my mirrors. The dark sedan was still there, no movement. My phone rang. Unknown number, I answered. Are you Thaddeus? A woman's voice, slight accent I couldn't place. French, maybe, which would match the name Marchand. Yes, I'm your driver. I'm right outside Terminal 3 arrivals. I see you. I'm coming now. She hung up. I scanned the doors again. Nobody. I waited another 3 minutes, eyes darting between the terminal entrance and my mirrors. That dark sedan hadn't moved, but I noticed now that someone was sitting in the driver's seat. Just a silhouette. Then the automatic doors slid open, and a woman walked out pulling 2 large suitcases. She was dressed in a long dark coat, a scarf wrapped around her neck despite it being late summer. She looked around, then walked directly toward my car. I popped the trunk and got out to help with the bags. Eulalie? I asked, as I reached for the first suitcase. Yes, thank you for waiting. Her voice matched the phone call. Soft, tired, that unplaceable accent. She was maybe mid-40s, pale, with dark circles under her eyes like she'd been awake for days. The first suitcase was heavy, much heavier than it looked. I lifted the second one, and it was just as bad, like she'd packed stones. I loaded them both into the trunk and closed it, then got back behind the wheel. She slid into the back seat and immediately pulled out her phone, typing rapidly. "Where are we headed?" I asked, even though the app should have had the address. "The address is in the app," she said without looking up. I checked. The destination showed a residential area about 40 minutes away, out near the exurbs where the suburbs bled into farmland. Good fare. I started driving, following the route the app gave me. We exited the airport complex and merged onto the highway. She didn't say anything else, just kept typing on her phone. I glanced in the rearview mirror. Her face was illuminated by the screen, eyes focused, fingers moving fast. I looked at the road, then checked my side mirror. The dark blue sedan from Terminal 3 was 3 cars behind us. It could have been coincidence. Plenty of people leave airports at odd hours. But something about the way it had been parked, lights off, waiting, it stuck with me. I changed lanes to test it. The sedan changed lanes too, maintaining distance. I told myself I was being paranoid. The highway was mostly empty. Anyone going the same direction would naturally be near us. But when I took the exit toward the route the app had plotted, the sedan took the same exit. Now there were no other cars between us. Just my Camry and the sedan, maybe 100 feet back. "Everything okay?" Eulalie asked from the back seat. I realized I'd been staring at the mirror. "Yeah, all good. Just checking traffic." I tried to sound casual. She went back to her phone. The road ahead was a 2-lane state route. No streetlights, farmland on both sides. The sedan stayed behind us, matching my speed exactly. I slowed down to 60. It slowed down, I sped up to 70. It sped up. My hands tightened on the wheel. I thought about saying something to her, but what would I say? "There's a car following us?" Maybe it wasn't following us. Maybe I was just jumpy because of the late hour and the weird terminal confusion. The app instructed me to take a right turn in 2 miles onto a smaller county road. I signaled early, watching the mirror. The sedan's turn signal came on too. My heart rate picked up. This wasn't coincidence anymore. When I made the turn, the sedan followed. Now we were on a narrow road with fields on one side and a tree line on the other. No other traffic. No houses with lights on. Just darkness and the glow of the sedan's headlights behind me. "Excuse me," Eulalie said suddenly. "I need to make a stop." A stop? I glanced at her in the mirror. She was still looking at her phone. "Yes, just for a moment. There's a gas station coming up in a few miles. I need to use the restroom." I checked the app. There was a gas station marked ahead, one of those isolated 24-hour places that mostly served truckers. Sure, no problem. But I was thinking about the sedan. Would it stop too? Or would it keep going and prove I was imagining things? We drove in silence for another 5 minutes. The sedan never closed the distance, never fell back. It just stayed there, a constant presence in my mirrors. Then I saw the lights of the gas station ahead, harsh fluorescent white against the darkness. I pulled into the lot. The sedan drove past on the main road, didn't even slow down. I felt a wave of relief. Just paranoia. Just a random car going the same direction. Eulalie got out quickly and walked toward the building. I stayed in the car, engine running, watching her go inside. The gas station was deserted except for a clerk visible through the window, standing behind the counter looking at his phone. I checked my own phone. The app showed we were about 20 minutes from the destination now. I'd make decent money on this trip after all. I looked at the trunk in my rearview camera display. Those suitcases. What the hell was in them? I thought about asking when she got back, but passengers don't usually appreciate questions about their luggage. She came out of the gas station 7 minutes later, walking fast, head down. She got back in the car without a word and immediately returned to her phone. I pulled out of the lot and back onto the county road, following the app's directions. We were in the middle of nowhere now, the kind of area where houses were a mile apart and most of them were dark. The road curved through woods and fields, narrow and poorly lit. I kept checking the mirrors out of habit, but there was nothing behind us. Just empty road and darkness. Then the app did something weird. The destination point suddenly shifted on the map, jumping from the original location to a spot about 3 miles north. I frowned at the screen. Sometimes passengers updated their destination mid-trip, but usually I got a notification. Nothing popped up. The route recalculated automatically, directing me to take an upcoming left turn instead of continuing straight. "Did you change the destination?" I asked, glancing at her in the mirror. She looked up from her phone, confused. "What?" "The address. It moved on my app." She leaned forward to look at my screen, then checked her own phone. "No, I didn't change anything. It should be the same address I put in." I showed her my screen. The pin was definitely in a different location now. She frowned, typed something on her phone, then shook her head. "That's strange. On my app, it still shows the original address." A cold feeling settled in my stomach. Technical glitches happened, but this was odd timing. I was about to suggest we just go to her original destination when I looked in the mirror again and saw headlights approaching from behind, fast. The car came up quickly, and I recognized the shape and color even in the dark. The blue sedan, it had circled back. "Hold on," I said, more to myself than to her. I didn't take the left turn the app was telling me to take. I kept going straight, toward the original destination I remembered from when I first accepted the ride. The sedan stayed behind us, close now, maybe 50 feet. I could see it clearly in my mirrors, definitely the same car from the airport. "Why didn't you turn?" Eulalie asked, her voice sharp. "GPS is acting up. I'm going to the original address you gave me." "No, you need to follow the app. Turn around." There was an edge in her voice now that hadn't been there before. I glanced at her in the mirror, and she was staring at me, phone lowered, face tense. The sedan behind us flashed its high beams once, twice. My pulse hammered in my ears. "Listen," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I'm going to take you to the original destination. If that's not where you need to go, you can update the address, and I'll adjust. But something's not right with the app." "Stop the car." "What?" "Stop the car now. I'll get another driver." I didn't stop. The road ahead was completely isolated. No buildings, no lights, nothing. Stopping here felt like the worst possible option. The sedan was right on my bumper now, high beams flooding my car with light. I sped up. Eulalie leaned forward between the front seats. "I said stop the car. I'm getting you to a safe location first." I pressed harder on the gas. The car accelerated to 80 on a road that probably had a 55 limit. The sedan matched my speed. We flew past dark fields and dense woods, the white lines of the road blurring beneath us. Eulalie grabbed the back of my seat. "You're kidnapping me. Stop this car or I'll call the police." "Call them," I shot back. "Tell them there's a car that's been following us since the airport." She went silent. I looked in the mirror and saw her face had changed. The panic was still there, but something else too. Recognition maybe. Fear. She turned to look out the rear window at the sedan, then pulled out her phone. She wasn't calling anyone. She was texting, fingers flying across the screen. My mind raced through possibilities. Was she in danger? Was I? Were those suitcases full of something illegal? Was this a setup? The app on my phone spoke up with a new instruction, telling me to take the next right turn. I ignored it. According to my memory of the original route, we were about 10 minutes from the destination. I just had to keep going straight, then take a left in about 6 miles. The sedan stayed glued to my bumper, high beams never dimming. I couldn't see the driver's face, just a dark shape behind the wheel. Then my phone started ringing. Unknown number. I didn't answer. It rang again immediately. I declined it again. A text came through. Answer the phone. I deleted it. Another call. This time, Eulalie's phone rang too. She answered it immediately. Yes? Her voice was quiet, strained. She listened for a moment. I don't know. He won't stop. He's not following the app. More listening. I tried. He won't. She looked at me. Someone wants to talk to you. I'm not talking to anyone. I'm getting you to the destination and then this ride is over. She held the phone toward me anyway. He says it's important. He says you're making a mistake. Who is he? She didn't answer, just kept holding the phone out. I heard a man's voice coming from the speaker, faint and distorted. I couldn't make out the words. The sedan behind us flashed its lights again, 3 quick pulses. Some kind of signal. My hands were sweating on the wheel. Put the phone away, I told her. Sit back and put on your seatbelt. She slowly lowered the phone and sat back. But I heard her still talking to whoever was on the line, voice low and rapid. I couldn't tell what language she was speaking, not English. Maybe French. Maybe something else. The road curved ahead and I took the turn too fast, tires squealing. The sedan matched the curve perfectly, professional driving. Whoever was behind the wheel knew what they were doing. We were 5 minutes from the destination now, maybe less. I could see the glow of a small town ahead, lights from a main street that cut through this rural area. If I could just get to somewhere public, somewhere with people and witnesses, I could end this ride and get away from whatever this situation was. The sedan seemed to sense my plan because it suddenly accelerated and pulled alongside me in the oncoming lane. We were side by side now, doing 70 on a narrow country road. I looked over and saw the driver for the first time. A man, maybe late 30s, dark hair, face expressionless. He looked directly at me and pointed forward, then jabbed his finger to the right, indicating I should take the next turn. I shook my head and mouthed, no. He reached for something on his passenger seat. I couldn't see what it was. My imagination went to the worst possibilities. I floored the accelerator. The Camry surged ahead, pulling in front of the sedan. The town lights were closer now, maybe 2 minutes away. I just had to make it there. The sedan dropped back, falling into position behind me again. Please, Eulalie said from the back seat. Her voice was different now, quieter, almost pleading. Please, just take the turn. I'll explain everything. You're not in danger. I promise you're not in danger. Then, why is that car following us? He's trying to help me. Help you with what? She didn't answer. I could see buildings now, the outskirts of the town, a closed gas station, a darkened strip mall, then lights, a 24-hour diner, windows bright, a few cars in the parking lot. I yanked the wheel and pulled in, tires crunching on gravel. I threw the car into park and turned to face her. Get out. She stared at me. What? This ride is over. Get your bags and get out. You can't just leave me here. Watch me. I popped the trunk and got out of the car. The sedan had followed us into the lot and was now parked at the far end, engine running, headlights pointed at us. I pulled her suitcases out of the trunk and set them on the ground. They hit the gravel with heavy thuds. Eulalie got out of the back seat, phone still in her hand. "You don't understand what you're doing," she said. "I understand I'm ending this ride. The fare stops here. You can call another driver. I'm not paying you. I don't care." I got back in the driver's seat and locked the doors. She stood there next to her luggage, staring at me through the window. The man from the sedan got out of his car and started walking toward her. I watched in the mirror as he approached. She didn't move, didn't react. He reached her, and they stood facing each other. He said something I couldn't hear. She responded. They both looked at my car. I opened the app and ended the ride. Marked it as a problem passenger, didn't request payment. I just wanted it off my record and out of my phone. Then I put the car in reverse and backed out of the parking spot. As I pulled away, I saw them both still standing there in my rearview mirror. Two figures next to heavy suitcases in a diner parking lot at almost 4 a.m. The man pulled out his phone. Eulalie bent down and unzipped one of the suitcases. I didn't wait to see what was inside. I drove out of the lot and back toward the highway, hands still shaking on the wheel. My phone buzzed with a notification. A 1-star rating had already posted to my account. No comment, just 1 star. Then another notification. Someone had tried to report my license plate to the platform for dangerous driving and passenger abandonment. I'd have to deal with that later. Right now, I just wanted distance. The highway was still empty at this hour. I merged on and headed back towards the city, checking my mirrors every few seconds. No blue sedan, no headlights, just empty road and the fading glow of that town behind me. My phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. "You should have made the turn." I deleted it and blocked the number. Another text came through from a different number. "Check the trunk." My stomach dropped. I pulled onto the shoulder and got out, walked around to the back of the car. The trunk was closed. I popped it open. Empty, except for the emergency kit and spare tire. Nothing unusual. I slammed it shut and got back in the car, locked all the doors. Another text. "Not your trunk. The bags." I sat there on the shoulder, engine idling, trying to process what that meant. The bags I'd pulled out of my trunk and left with her. What was in them? Money? Drugs? Something worse? The phone buzzed again, but this time it was the Ride app, a message from the platform. "We've received a complaint about Ride 827. Please contact support." I ignored it and pulled back onto the highway. I drove for 20 minutes before my heart rate started to return to normal. The city lights appeared on the horizon, that familiar orange glow of urban sprawl. I'd never been so happy to see traffic and buildings and people. I merged into the early morning delivery trucks and night shift workers heading home. Anonymous, safe. Just another car on the road. But as I took my exit toward my apartment, I noticed something in the passenger seat. A phone. Not mine. Mine was in the cup holder. This one was smaller. Older model. Screen cracked. It must have fallen out of Eulalie's pocket or bag when she was in the car. I picked it up. The screen lit up at my touch. No password. The last thing open was a text conversation in a language I didn't recognize, but I saw my license plate number in the messages, and a photo of me from behind, taken through my rear window while I was driving. And an address, not the destination from the app, but something else. I typed it into my own phone's GPS. It was the location where the app had tried to redirect me. That left turn I'd refused to take. I dropped the phone like it was hot. It landed on the passenger floor. I thought about throwing it out the window, but that seemed stupid. Evidence, maybe. Of what, I didn't know. I pulled into my apartment complex and parked in my usual spot, grabbed the phone, and went inside. I locked every lock on my door and put a chair against it for good measure. The phone sat on my kitchen counter while I tried to decide what to do with it. Call the police? And tell them what? That I had a weird ride and someone followed me? That I found a phone? None of it was technically illegal. Just strange, unsettling. I made coffee, even though it was almost 5 in the morning and I knew I wouldn't sleep. While it brewed, the phone buzzed. A new text in English this time. "We know where you live, Thaddeus." I stared at the screen. The message sat there, simple and direct. I looked at my windows, blinds drawn. Looked at my door with its chair barricade. The phone buzzed again. "The phone is a gift. Keep it, you'll need it." I didn't respond. Didn't touch the phone again. The coffee maker beeped and I poured a cup with shaking hands. I sat at my kitchen table and opened my laptop, searched the address that had been in the phone's GPS. Street view showed an old farmhouse at the end of a dirt road, no other buildings visible. Nothing obviously sinister, but nothing that explained why someone wanted me to go there in the middle of the night. I searched Eulalie Marchand. Nothing useful came up, just some social media profiles that might or might not be her. The sun started to rise. My phone, my actual phone, had a dozen notifications from the Ride app about the complaint against me. I'd have to deal with that today. Probably lose the fare, possibly face suspension. 6 years of 5-star ratings and it could all tank because of one weird ride. The unknown phone buzzed one more time. Terminal 2, tonight, 11 p.m. Same name. You'll understand then. I didn't respond to that either. I wasn't going back to that airport. I wasn't picking up anyone named Eulalie Marchand ever again. I was done with late-night airport runs, done with heavy suitcases and following cars and redirected GPS coordinates. I'd drive day shifts from now on. Shopping trips and office commutes. Nothing after dark. But even as I thought it, I knew I'd be checking the app tonight at 11 p.m. Knew I'd see if a request came through from Terminal 2. Knew that some part of me needed to understand what I'd stumbled into on that road. The phone sat on my counter, screen dark now, waiting. And I sat at my table with cold coffee, watching the sun climb higher, knowing that whatever this was, it wasn't over. The morning delivery trucks rumbled past outside. Normal sounds, normal day starting. But I kept seeing those heavy suitcases hitting the gravel, kept seeing the man walking toward her in the parking lot, kept feeling the weight of the phone in my hand. Somewhere out there, Eulalie Marchand and her companion had those bags. Had whatever was inside them, had my license plate and my face and my address. And tonight, maybe, I'd find out why. The ping came through at 2:34 a.m. from the club district downtown. I'd been sitting in a Wendy's parking lot for 20 minutes, waiting for the Friday night surge to kick in one last time before calling it. The name on the request was Temperance Vale, pickup location outside a place called Voltage, one of those bass-thumping warehouses that didn't close until 4. I'm Obadiah Lyle, been driving weekends for 3 years now, mostly nights because that's when the money is. The club crowd tips decent if you don't mind the occasional drunk passenger or spilled drink. Usually, it's easy money. Pick them up, drop them off, don't ask questions. But that night taught me that sometimes the questions find you whether you want them or not. I pulled up to Voltage at 2:41. The street was chaos. People stumbling out of bars, groups arguing on corners, a few couples making out against buildings. Music thumped from open doors, overlapping beats creating a wall of noise. I double-parked near the curb with my hazards on, and sent the "I'm here" notification through the app. A minute later, a woman in a silver dress and heels came walking quickly out of the club's entrance, looking over her shoulder. She matched the profile photo. Mid-20s, dark hair pulled back, heavy eye makeup that was starting to smudge. She yanked my rear door open and slid in, slamming it behind her. "Go, please, just go," she said, voice tight with stress. "Your temperance?" "Yes. Can we leave now?" I pulled away from the curb, cutting into traffic. She twisted in her seat to look out the rear window. I checked my mirror and saw a group of people standing outside the club entrance, but nobody seemed to be following us. "Everything okay?" I asked, merging onto the main avenue. "Fine. Just had a bad night." She pulled out her phone and started typing rapidly, her thumbs flying across the screen. I glanced at the app to check the destination. It showed an address in the suburbs, about a 25-minute drive from here. Good fare. She sat back and exhaled, staring at her phone. The streetlights passed over her face in rhythmic intervals. Lit, shadow, lit, shadow. She looked exhausted. We drove in silence for a few blocks. The club district fell away behind us, and the streets got quieter. Fewer pedestrians, less noise. I was about to ask if she wanted a specific route when my app made a sound I'd never heard before. A soft chime, different from the usual notifications. I looked down at the screen. The destination pin had moved. Instead of the suburb address, it now showed a location on the east side of the city, an industrial area I'd driven through a few times. The route had recalculated automatically. "Hey, did you change the destination?" I asked, glancing at her in the mirror. She looked up from her phone, confused. "What? No. The address just changed on my app, see?" I angled the phone so she could see the screen. She leaned forward and frowned. "That's not my address. I put in 4782 Meadowbrook Lane. That's where I'm going." That's what I thought. But now it's showing someplace on Industrial Boulevard. She checked her own phone, opening the Rider app. On my screen it still shows Meadowbrook. I didn't change anything. I felt a prickle of unease, but tried to shake it off. Apps glitched sometimes. GPS got confused. I'd just follow the original address from memory. "Okay, no problem. I'll take you to Meadowbrook. Probably just a bug. Thank you." She went back to her phone, but I noticed her hands were shaking slightly. She typed something, deleted it, typed again. Every few seconds she'd glance out the rear window. I checked my own mirrors more frequently now, paying attention to the cars behind us. There was a pickup truck about 3 cars back. Dark color, hard to tell in the streetlights. It had been there since we left the club district. Probably nothing. This was a main route out of downtown. We hit a red light and I stopped, waiting. The pickup stopped too, maintaining that same distance. Temperance was looking out her window now, at the storefronts and closed businesses we were passing. Her leg bounced nervously. "Rough night at the club?" I asked, trying to make conversation. "Something like that." She didn't elaborate. The light changed, and I accelerated. 2 blocks later, my app chimed again. That same unfamiliar sound. I looked down. The destination had changed again. Now, it showed a completely different location. This time, a residential street I'd never heard of, way out in the northwest part of the city. The route was recalculating, telling me to take the next right turn instead of continuing straight toward Meadowbrook. "It happened again," I said, holding up the phone. Temperance grabbed her own phone and checked. "I still see Meadowbrook on mine. What the hell is going on with your app?" "I don't know. This has never happened before." I ignored the turn instruction and kept going straight. Behind us, the pickup changed lanes, moving 1 lane to the right. Still following, still maintaining distance. My grip tightened on the wheel. "Maybe you should just follow your GPS," Temperance suggested. Like maybe it's rerouting for traffic or construction or something. At 3 in the morning, there's no traffic. I gestured at the empty road ahead. And your app still shows the original address, right? So something's wrong with mine. I'm just going to take you to Meadowbrook like you requested. She nodded slowly, but she looked worried now. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. We drove for another 5 minutes. The pickup stayed with us, never closing the gap, never falling back. I tested it by changing lanes. The pickup changed lanes too. I slowed down to 50 in a 60 zone. The pickup slowed down. My palms started to sweat. This wasn't coincidence. Someone was following us and somehow they were messing with my app's destination. But how? And why? Temperance, I said carefully. Is there any reason someone might be following you? Her head snapped up. What? Who's following us? That pickup truck. Dark blue or black, I can't tell. It's been behind us since we left the club. She turned to look out the rear window, eyes wide. Oh my God, it's him. Who? My ex, he was at the club tonight. That's why I left. He wouldn't leave me alone, kept trying to talk to me, getting aggressive. I thought I lost him when I got in your car. You think that's him in the truck? I don't know. Maybe. He drives a black pickup, a Silverado or something. I'm not good with truck models. This can't be happening. She was breathing fast now, on the edge of panic. I checked the mirror again. The pickup was still there, a dark shape with headlights. Okay, stay calm. I'm going to try to lose him. I took a sudden right turn without signaling, cutting into a side street. The pickup's brake lights flared and it turned too, following us. My heart rate picked up. He's definitely following, I said. I took the next left, then another right, weaving through residential streets. The pickup stayed with us, matching every turn. Whoever was driving knew what they were doing. Temperance was gripping the door handle, phone clutched in her other hand. Call the police, I told her. And tell them what? That a car is driving on the same streets as us? They won't do anything unless he actually does something. Her voice was bitter, like she'd been through this before. She had a point. I took another turn, this time onto a busier avenue with more lights and a few other cars. The pickup followed. My app chimed again. I glanced down, already knowing what I'd see. The destination had changed once more, now showing a location that was behind us, back toward the club district. The route was trying to get me to turn around. This is insane, I muttered. Someone's controlling my GPS. How is that even possible? I don't know, but every time it changes, it's like it's trying to get us to go somewhere else. Somewhere different from where you actually want to go. Temperance went very still. Wait, show me your screen again. I held up the phone at the next red light. She leaned forward and stared at it, then checked her own phone, comparing. The last 3 location changes, I've been to all of those places. That industrial area, that's where I used to work, at a warehouse. That residential street in the northwest, that's where my mom lives, and this new one that just popped up, that's the parking garage where I park my car downtown. A cold feeling spread through my chest. So someone knows your locations, your regular places. It's him, it has to be. He's done shit like this before, tracking my phone, showing up places I didn't tell him about. I thought I blocked him from everything after we broke up, but he must have found a new way. Her voice cracked. He's trying to figure out where I live now. That's why he's following us. And he's messing with your GPS to try to get information about where I'm going. Can he do that? Hack into the Ride app? I don't know how he does half the things he does. He works in IT or cyber something. I never paid attention when he talked about his job, but he's always been able to find me no matter what I do. She was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks. I made a decision. Okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm not taking you to your actual address. We're going to a police station. There's one about 10 minutes from here. No. I've been to the police before. They won't help. They'll say it's a civil matter. Tell me to get a restraining order, which I already have, and which he violates constantly. They don't care until someone actually gets hurt. The bitterness in her voice was sharp and painful. Then where do you want me to take you? She wiped at her tears, thinking, Can we just drive around for a while until he gives up? We can try, but I don't know how long he'll follow us, and eventually I'll run out of gas. I checked the gauge. Half a tank. Maybe 2 more hours of driving. Okay, just keep driving, please. So I did. I got back on the main roads and headed south, away from both her address and the locations that kept popping up on my sabotaged GPS. The pickup followed. For the next hour, I drove through the city like I was giving a tour. Downtown, uptown, across the river and back. The whole time, the pickup stayed behind us, sometimes close, sometimes hanging back, but never losing us. My app kept chiming with new destinations every 10 or 15 minutes, each one a place from Temperance's life, her gym, a restaurant she'd mentioned going to with friends, her dentist's office. It was like watching someone's entire routine get mapped out in real time, all her private information being harvested and displayed. She sat in the back seat, alternating between crying and staring at her phone in numb silence. Around 4:15 a.m., I saw the gas light come on. I need to fill up soon, I told her. She nodded. There's a station off Jefferson Avenue. It's always busy, even late, lots of cameras. I headed toward Jefferson, the pickup still behind us. When I pulled into the well-lit gas station, the pickup drove past, continuing down the street. For a moment, I felt relief. Maybe he'd given up. I pulled up to a pump and got out, inserted my card. Temperance stayed in the back seat, door locked, watching the street. I started filling the tank, keeping an eye on the road. A minute passed, 2 minutes. No sign of the pickup. Then I saw it, coming back from the opposite direction. It slowed as it approached the gas station, and I got my first clear look at the truck. Black Silverado, just like she'd said. The driver was a dark silhouette, but I could see he was looking right at us as he passed. He didn't turn in, just drove by slowly, then continued down the street and turned into a parking lot about a block away. Watching, waiting. He's back, I told Temperance as I got back in the car. He's parked down the street. I know. I saw him. Her voice was flat, defeated. He's never going to stop. This is my life now. This is what it's like. I pulled out of the gas station and back onto Jefferson. The pickup's headlights came on, and it pulled out of the parking lot, resuming its position behind us. We were both exhausted now. I'd been driving for over an hour and a half, and my eyes were starting to burn from staring at the road and mirrors. The sky was beginning to lighten in the east, that pre-dawn gray that meant morning wasn't far off. I have an idea, I said. What if I take you to a hotel? You can check in, stay there for the day, figure out your next move. He can't follow you inside. I can't afford a hotel. I'll cover it. This situation is messed up. I want to help. She looked at me in the mirror, surprised. You don't have to do that. I know, but I'm doing it anyway. There's a Holiday Inn near the airport. It's big, always has rooms, good security. She hesitated, then nodded. Okay, thank you. I changed direction and headed toward the airport. The pickup followed. My app chimed again. Another destination change, this time showing the airport terminal. Whoever was controlling it was getting the information in real time, adjusting as I adjusted. I wondered if they could hear us too, if the car was bugged somehow. I turned off my phone completely and told Temperance to do the same. If he's getting information from our phones, let's cut him off, I explained. She powered hers down and we drove in silence, following road signs to the airport instead of GPS. The pickup stayed with us, but without our phones active, maybe the person controlling them would lose some of their advantage. It was a small thing, probably futile, but it was all I could think of. The Holiday Inn appeared ahead, a tall building next to the airport access road. I pulled into the parking lot and drove around to the side entrance, away from the main road. The pickup slowed as it passed the hotel, then continued on. I parked near the side door and we both sat there for a moment, waiting to see if it would circle back. A minute passed, 2 minutes, no sign of it. Maybe he won't follow you inside, I said. It's a public place, lots of people, cameras everywhere. Maybe. She didn't sound convinced. She grabbed her small purse, all she'd brought with her from the club, and reached for the door handle. Thank you for this. For all of it. You didn't have to keep driving, you could have just dropped me off anywhere. I'm coming in with you, just to make sure you get checked in okay. We went inside together. The lobby was quiet, just a tired-looking desk clerk and one businessman in a suit sitting in the waiting area, typing on a laptop. I paid for a room with my card, told the clerk it was for my friend who'd had an emergency. He didn't ask questions, just handed over the key cards. Temperance took them with shaking hands. Room 412, the clerk said. Elevators are around the corner. Checkout is at 11. We walked toward the elevators. I pushed the button and we waited. The businessman in the lobby was still typing, not paying attention to us. The elevator dinged and the doors opened. Temperance stepped inside and turned to face me. I don't know how to thank you, she said. Just stay safe, and maybe think about leaving the city for a while. Staying with family or friends somewhere he doesn't know about. I've thought about it. I think about it every day. The elevator doors started to close. Be careful driving home. He might still be out there. I will. The doors closed, and she was gone. I stood there for a moment, suddenly aware of how tired I was. It was almost 5 in the morning. I'd been up for over 24 hours, and the adrenaline was wearing off. I walked back through the lobby, past the businessman who was now on his phone, and out the side door to my car. The parking lot was still empty of the black pickup. I got in, locked the doors, and sat there for a minute, trying to decide if I should just wait here until full daylight or risk driving home now. My phone was still off. I powered it back on and watched the screen light up. Immediately, notifications started flooding in. Messages from the ride app about the ongoing trip, warnings about extended ride time, and then text messages from unknown numbers. The first one said, "You made a mistake." The second, "She's not safe there." The third, "Neither are you." I deleted them all and blocked the numbers. More messages came through from different numbers. I blocked those too. My hands were shaking. I started the car and pulled out of the parking lot, heading for the exit. As I turned onto the airport access road, I saw it in my rear-view mirror, the black pickup parked in the shadows near the hotel's main entrance. It had never left. It had just been waiting, watching. I accelerated, merging onto the highway toward home. The pickup didn't follow this time. It stayed in the hotel parking lot. But I knew what that meant. Whoever was driving it knew where Temperance was now. Knew exactly which hotel she was in. My helping her had just led him right to her. I thought about calling her, warning her, but I'd never gotten her number. It was all through the app, and ending the ride had closed that connection. I drove home in the growing dawn light, checking my mirrors constantly. No pickup, no followers. Just normal early morning traffic, delivery trucks and shift workers. I pulled into my apartment complex and parked, sat in the car for a long minute before going inside. My phone buzzed with one final message from an unknown number. "Thanks for the help, driver. Couldn't have found her without you." I stumbled into my apartment and locked every lock, pulled the blinds, sat on my couch in the dim light and stared at my phone. The ride app was asking me to rate the passenger. I closed it without rating. I couldn't even process that absurdity right now. Instead, I opened a browser and searched for the Holiday Inn's number, called the front desk. "Hi, I need to get a message to a guest, room 412, it's urgent." "I'm sorry, sir, we can't confirm or deny guest information. Please, just tell whoever's in room 412 to not leave the room, to call the police. Someone followed her there." "Sir, I can't, just tell her." I hung up. It was inadequate, probably useless. The clerk probably thought I was a crazy person and wouldn't pass along any message, but it was all I could do. I sat there as the sun came up, as morning turned the windows bright, as the city woke up around me. My phone stayed silent. No more unknown messages, no calls from Temperance or the police or anyone. I pulled up the ride app and looked at my history. The trip from last night showed as completed, 4 hours and 37 minutes, 142 miles driven, payment pending. There was already a rating posted. 1 star, no comment. I thought about the pickup truck sitting in that hotel parking lot. Thought about Temperance in room 412, maybe sleeping, maybe staring at the ceiling, maybe already gone, checked out early, running again. Thought about how my GPS had been hijacked, turned into a tool for tracking someone. Thought about all the information we give away every day through apps and phones and rides in strangers' cars. How easily it can be used against us. My phone buzzed. A new ride request. I looked at the screen. The pickup location was the Holiday Inn. The passenger name was listed as T. Vale. The destination was blank. I stared at it until the request timed out and disappeared. Then I deleted the ride app from my phone completely. I was done driving. Done with late nights and club districts and passengers with secrets. Done being part of whatever system allowed someone to turn a simple ride into a hunt. But even as I deleted the app, even as I told myself I was out, I kept thinking about that room number. 412. Kept wondering if she was okay. Kept feeling the weight of responsibility for leading him right to her door. The sun climbed higher. The city moved on. And somewhere across town, in a hotel parking lot, a black pickup truck sat waiting. Or maybe it was already gone. Maybe she was already gone. Maybe it was all over, and I'd never know how it ended. I closed my eyes and tried to sleep, but all I could see was that truck in my mirrors, following, always following, patient and relentless as a shadow. The request came through at 2:52 a.m. from Mercy Hospital's emergency entrance. I'd been parked 2 blocks away, finishing a cold burrito from a gas station, when the ping lit up my phone. Hospital pickups were common on the graveyard shift. Discharged patients who didn't have rides, nurses getting off work, the occasional medical resident too tired to drive home. Usually straightforward, usually quiet people who just wanted to get wherever they were going. I'm Percival Hargreave. Been doing this for 4 years, mostly nights because the day shift is too competitive and the money's not as good. I grabbed the phone, accepted the ride, and pulled out of my spot. 3-minute drive to Mercy. Passenger name, Isolde Penniman. Destination was a pharmacy about 15 minutes away, one of the 24-hour chains near the highway. I pulled up to the emergency entrance at 2:56. The fluorescent lights made everything look harsh and sickly. The pavement, the ambulances parked along the bay, the few people sitting in the waiting area visible through the glass doors. I sent the "I'm here" notification and waited. A minute passed, then 2. I was about to call when the automatic doors slid open and a woman walked out slowly, one hand pressed to her side, the other clutching a small plastic bag. She was maybe early 40s, thin, dressed in sweatpants and an oversized hoodie despite it being late August. Her face was pale and drawn, dark circles under her eyes. She looked like she'd been awake for days or hadn't slept well in weeks. She matched the profile photo enough that I was confident it was her. I got out to help, but she waved me off. "I'm fine, I can do it." Her voice was tight with pain or exhaustion or both. She opened the back door and lowered herself carefully onto the seat, moving like everything hurt. I got back behind the wheel and checked the app to confirm the destination. "Pharmacy on Route 9?" I asked. "Yes, but I need you to hurry. They close at 4 and I have to pick up a prescription." I checked the time. It was 2:58. We had over an hour. "Should be plenty of time," I said, pulling away from the curb. "Just please hurry." She leaned back against the seat and closed her eyes. I glanced at her in the mirror. She looked worse under the car's interior lights, not just tired, but sick, maybe feverish. The hand pressed to her side hadn't moved. We drove in silence for a few minutes, leaving the hospital complex and merging onto the main road that would take us toward the highway. Traffic was almost non-existent. A delivery truck here, a taxi there. The city at this hour was a skeleton of itself, just the night workers and insomniacs and people like me and Isolde who had reasons to be out when everyone else was sleeping. I kept the radio off, sensing she wasn't in the mood for conversation or music. At the first red light, she leaned forward slightly. "Do you have any water?" "Sorry, no, but I can stop at a gas station if you—" "No stops. Just get me to the pharmacy." "Okay." The light changed and I accelerated. Maybe a little faster than I normally would have. Something about her urgency was contagious. We got on the highway and I pushed it to 70, staying in the right lane. The pharmacy was at the next exit, maybe 10 minutes away now. "What did they give you?" she asked suddenly. I glanced at the mirror, confused. "What?" "For pain, at the hospital, what did they give you?" I'm not the patient. You're the passenger." She opened her eyes and looked at me like she was seeing me for the first time. "Right, sorry, I'm not thinking clearly." She closed her eyes again. "They didn't give me enough. Said I had to wait for the prescription, but the pain is bad." "I'm sorry, we'll be there soon." I pressed the gas a little harder, pushing to 75. The exit sign appeared ahead. Route 9, next exit. I moved into the exit lane and took the ramp, then turned left toward the commercial strip where the pharmacy was located. Big parking lot, bright lights, the store visible from the road. We were there by 3:11. I pulled up to the entrance and put the car in park. Isolde sat up and pulled out her wallet, fumbled with it. "Can you wait?" "I need you to wait and then take me home." "Sure, but that'll change the destination and the fare." "I don't care about the fare. I'll pay cash. Just please wait." She got out slowly, still clutching her side, and walked toward the pharmacy entrance. I watched her go inside, then settled back to wait. The app was asking if I wanted to end the ride. I selected Wait and Continue, and the timer started. That was fine. Waiting time paid, and it wasn't like I had somewhere else to be at 3 in the morning. The pharmacy was one of those places that was mostly deserted at night. Through the windows I could see Isolde talking to someone at the counter, a young guy in a white coat who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. They talked for a minute, then he turned to his computer. She leaned against the counter, that hand still pressed to her side. Something about her posture bothered me. She looked like she might collapse. I thought about the hospital visit, the prescription, the pain she'd mentioned. Post-surgery, maybe? Kidney stones? I'd driven enough hospital pickups to know that people left the ER in all kinds of conditions, not all of them stable. Sometimes they discharged you because there wasn't anything more they could do there, not because you were okay. The pharmacist was talking to her again, and even from the car I could see her body language change. She straightened up, started gesturing. He shook his head. She pulled out her phone and showed him something on the screen. More head shaking. This went on for several minutes, her frustration visible even from a distance. Finally, she turned and walked back toward the car, moving faster now, but in a way that looked like anger more than energy. She got in and slammed the door. "Problem?" I asked. "They won't fill it. Said the prescription isn't in the system yet, that the hospital has to call it in. But the doctor told me it would be ready. I've been waiting for 3 hours and it's not ready." Her voice was rising, stress and pain making it sharp. "And they said even when it does come through, I need to pay $240 because my insurance won't cover this particular medication. Do you have another pharmacy you can try? They're all the same. They all need the prescription called in, and they all want money I don't have." She was breathing hard now, almost hyperventilating. "I can't do this. I can't keep doing this." I didn't know what to say. The situation was beyond my scope. I was just the driver. But she looked desperate, and I felt bad for her. "What if you go back to the hospital? They could sort out the prescription issue there." "No, I'm not going back there. They'll just make me wait in the ER for another 4 hours and then tell me the same thing. I need the medication now. The pain is—" She trailed off, pressing harder against her side. An uncomfortable silence filled the car. I checked the time, 3:19. "So what do you want to do?" She was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then she pulled out her phone and made a call. It rang several times before someone answered. I couldn't hear the other end of the conversation, just her side. "It's me. I need you to do it again. I know. But they wouldn't fill it. No. I already tried that. $240. Yeah, can you meet me? Where are you now?" She listened. "Okay. 30 minutes. Same place as last time? Okay." She hung up and looked at me in the mirror. "Change of plans. I need you to take me somewhere else." "Where?" "I'll give you directions as we go. Head back toward the city." This was getting weird, but I didn't see an immediate reason to refuse. She was paying, and as long as she wasn't asking me to do anything illegal, I was obligated to take her where she wanted to go. I pulled out of the pharmacy parking lot and got back on the highway, heading toward downtown. She sat forward, watching the road, and started giving me directions. "Turn here, take this exit, go straight for a mile." We ended up in a part of the city I didn't know well. Not quite downtown, not quite residential, more of an in-between area with old warehouses being converted to lofts and small businesses that serviced the working class. Auto shops, dollar stores, a couple of 24-hour diners. "There," she said, pointing to a diner with a red neon sign that said Eats. "Park here." I pulled into the lot and parked facing the street. It was 3:38. The diner had a few customers visible through the windows. A couple of truckers, an elderly man reading a newspaper, a woman in scrubs who might have just gotten off shift. Isolde didn't get out. She just sat there watching the entrance. "We're meeting someone?" I asked. "Yeah, he'll be here soon." "And then where are we going?" "I don't know yet. Depends." She was still watching the door, not looking at me. "You're going to wait though, right? I'll pay you cash for all of it when we're done." "How much cash are we talking about?" "I don't know." "How much do you want?" That was a strange way to phrase it. I mean, the fare is whatever the app says, plus waiting time. Forget the app. I'll pay you $200 cash to drive me around for the next hour and not ask questions. Deal? $200 cash was better than most nights. But the not ask questions part made me nervous. What kind of driving around are we talking about? Just errands, couple of stops, nothing illegal. She finally looked at me in the mirror, and her eyes were intense, almost pleading. I really need this, please. Against my better judgment, I nodded. Okay, 200 cash, 1 hour. Thank you. She relaxed slightly and went back to watching the diner. We sat in silence for about 10 minutes. Then a car pulled into the lot, a beat-up Civic that had seen better days. A guy got out, maybe late 20s, wearing jeans and a leather jacket. He looked around the parking lot, spotted our car, and walked over. Isolde rolled down her window. "You got it?" she asked. "Yeah, but it's going to cost more this time, $250. You said $200 on the phone. That was before I knew you needed it tonight. Short notice costs extra." She made a frustrated noise. "Fine, $250. She pulled out her wallet, and I saw her count out bills. Looked like everything she had. She handed them through the window to the guy. He counted them himself, then reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small, amber prescription bottle. He handed it to her. "Same as last time. Don't take more than 2 every 6 hours. He looked past her at me. "Who's this?" "My driver. He's cool." The guy studied me for a moment, then shrugged. "Whatever. Be careful with those. They're strong." "I know." She rolled up the window, and he walked back to his car, got in, and drove off. Isolde opened the pill bottle and shook out 2 tablets, swallowed them dry. She closed her eyes and leaned back. I sat there processing what I'd just witnessed. That was a drug deal, a prescription medication drug deal, but still a deal. I should have refused, should have ended the ride right there. But I thought about the hospital, the pharmacy refusing to fill her prescription, the pain she was clearly in. The healthcare system failed people all the time, left them desperate and looking for alternatives. Was it really my place to judge? "Where to now?" I asked, keeping my voice neutral. "Just drive for a bit. The pills need time to kick in, then I'll give you my home address." I pulled out of the diner parking lot and started driving aimlessly through the neighborhood. She sat quietly in the back, eyes closed, breathing slowly. The pills were working, or at least she wanted to believe they were. I checked the time, 3:51. We'd been together for almost an hour now, and I still had no clear sense of what was really going on. Everything she'd told me might be true. The hospital, the prescription issue, the pain, or none of it might be true. Maybe she was just an addict looking for her fix and I'd been the convenient ride to facilitate it. "Take a left up here," she said suddenly, eyes still closed. "Then a right at the second light." I followed her directions. We were heading into a more residential area now, houses with small yards and cars parked on the street. She kept directing me, turn by turn, until we pulled up in front of a small duplex with peeling paint and an overgrown lawn. One side had lights on, the other was dark. "This is me," she said. The dark side. She opened her door, but didn't get out yet. Instead, she pulled out a different wallet from her bag, not the one she'd counted bills from before, but another one. She opened it and pulled out $200 in 20s, handed them to me through the gap between the front seats. "For your time. Thank you for not judging." "I'm not sure what I just helped with," I admitted. "You helped someone in pain get what they needed when the system wouldn't." She got out of the car, then leaned back in through the open door. "If anyone asks, you picked me up at the hospital and dropped me at home. That's all. That's all that happened as far as I'm concerned." She nodded and closed the door, walked slowly up the path to her front door. I watched her go inside, saw a light come on in what was probably the living room. Then I sat there for a moment, looking at the cash in my hand. $200 for an hour of driving and looking the other way. I should have felt good about it. Instead, I felt complicit in something I didn't fully understand. I pulled away from the curb and headed back toward my usual area, the commercial district where late-night requests were more common. It was almost 4:30 now, and the city was starting that strange transition between late night and early morning. The sky was still dark, but you could feel dawn coming. That subtle shift in the quality of the darkness. A few more cars on the road. Some businesses starting to light up for opening. My phone buzzed with a notification. A ride request. I looked at the screen. Pickup location. Mercy Hospital emergency entrance. Passenger name, I. Pennyman. Destination, same pharmacy from before. I stared at it. That couldn't be right. I'd just dropped Isolde at her home 15 minutes ago. She couldn't be back at the hospital already. I declined the request and kept driving. The phone buzzed again. Same request, same name, same locations. I declined again. It happened a third time. I pulled over and called the number associated with the request. It rang once and went to voicemail. Generic carrier message, no personal greeting. Something was very wrong. I opened my trip history and looked at the ride I'd just completed. It showed pickup at Mercy Hospital at 2:56 a.m., drop-off at an address I didn't recognize. Not the duplex where I'd actually dropped her off. The app had recorded a different end location entirely, an address on the far north side of the city. I looked at the fare. $8.73. Nothing about the hour of driving, the diner stop, none of it. Just the basic fare from hospital to wherever that false address was. I tried to manually edit the trip in the app, but there was no option to change anything. The record was locked. And I'd been paid in cash, outside the app, which meant there was no digital trail of what had actually happened. Except for the waiting time at the pharmacy, which was logged but now looked like nothing more than a driver taking a bathroom break or checking their phone. The request came through again. Fourth time. Same name, same locations. I answered the call that followed immediately after. Hello? A woman's voice, not Isolde, younger, more alert. Who is this? I asked. I'm trying to reach my sister. She ordered a ride an hour ago and never made it home. The app says her ride ended, but she's not here. Are you her driver? My mouth went dry. What's your sister's name? Isolde Pennyman. She was discharged from Mercy Hospital tonight. She was supposed to come home, but she never showed up, and her phone goes straight to voicemail. The ride app shows you dropped her off somewhere, but that's not her address. Where is she? I thought about the duplex, the dark side with peeling paint. What's her actual address, her real home address? The woman rattled off an address on the north side, the same address the app had recorded as the drop-off point. An address I'd never been to. That's where you were supposed to take her. That's where the app says you dropped her, but she's not here. Where did you actually take her? I took her to a duplex on the east side. She said it was her home. That's not her home. I don't know whose place that is. What's the address? I tried to remember the street name, but I'd just been following her directions, not paying attention to the signs. I'm not sure. It was near a diner, red neon sign that said Eats. Did she seem okay? Was she acting strange? I thought about the pills, the guy in the parking lot, the cash payment. She seemed like she was in pain. She said the hospital discharged her but wouldn't fill her prescription. What prescription? She wasn't prescribed anything. She left AMA, against medical advice. They wanted to keep her for observation, but she insisted on leaving. She's been having issues with pain medication. That's why she was in the ER in the first place. She took too many pills and we called 911. They stabilized her and were going to transfer her to a psychiatric facility, but she walked out before they could complete the paperwork. My stomach dropped. She's an addict. She's sick. She needs help. And now she's somewhere in the city with God knows how many pills, and no one knows where. You have to tell me exactly where you took her. I pulled up the map on my phone and tried to retrace the route, but in the dark, and without paying close attention, I couldn't pinpoint the exact location. I can try to find it again. It was a duplex, dark blue or gray, overgrown lawn, the dark side of the building. I'm calling the police. If she overdoses again, the woman's voice broke. Please, please, try to remember where you took her. I will. I'll go back and look for it right now. I hung up and immediately turned the car around, heading back toward that neighborhood. But as I drove, I realized I wasn't entirely sure which streets I'd taken. The directions had been turn by turn, reactive, not planned. I knew the general area, near the diner, but there were dozens of streets that fit that description. And it had been dark. And I'd been focused on driving, not memorizing landmarks. I drove through the neighborhood for 20 minutes, looking for anything familiar. The diner was easy to find. It was still there, still glowing with that Red Eats sign. But from there, everything looked similar. Small houses, duplexes, overgrown lawns. I turned down one street that looked right, drove slowly past the houses. None of them matched. Tried another street. Nothing. The sky was getting lighter now, that gray pre-dawn spreading across the horizon, and I could see the houses more clearly. But clearer visibility just meant more details to confuse me. More ways in which none of these buildings looked exactly like the one I remembered. My phone rang. The sister again. Did you find it? Not yet, I'm looking. Have you called the police? They said they'll send someone, but without a clear address, there's not much they can do. They said she's an adult, and if she left the hospital voluntarily, she has the right to go wherever she wants. They won't classify her as missing until she's been gone for 24 hours. That's insane. She could be dying right now. I know. The woman was crying now. I know. That's why I need you to find that house. You're the only one who knows where she is. I drove faster, scanning street signs, trying to match the route to my fragmented memory. The neighborhood was waking up, porch lights coming on, a few people heading to early shifts. I pulled over and asked a man walking his dog if he knew of any duplexes in the area with peeling paint. He pointed me toward a different street 2 blocks over. I thanked him and drove there, found 3 duplexes that could have been the one. I got out and walked up to each one, looking for any sign of recognition. The third one looked right. Gray paint, overgrown lawn, 2 units side by side. I knocked on the door of the dark unit. No answer. I knocked harder, still nothing. I called the sister back. I think I found it. Gray duplex, unit on the left, no one's answering. What's the address? I checked the number on the mailbox and read it off to her. But I'm not positive this is the right place. It looks right, but I'm not 100% certain. I'm coming there now, and I'm calling the police again, giving them that address. Don't leave. I won't. I hung up and sat on the curb in front of the duplex, waiting. The sky continued to lighten. A few cars drove past, people going to work. Normal morning routines in a neighborhood where one house might contain a woman who'd overdosed on pills I'd watched her buy. The guilt was overwhelming. I should have refused to take her to that diner. Should have insisted on taking her back to the hospital, or to the address in the app. Should have recognized the signs of addiction instead of sympathizing with the story about prescription problems. 20 minutes later, a car pulled up fast and a woman jumped out. Late 30s, wearing scrubs like she'd just left work. She ran up to the duplex and started pounding on the door. Isolde! Isolde! Open up! It's me! No response. She tried the door handle. Locked. She ran around to the side of the building looking for another way in. I followed her. There was a window on the side, curtains drawn. She tried to look through the gap, but couldn't see anything. Then she picked up a rock from the overgrown garden and smashed the window. "Hey, you can't," I started. But she was already reaching through, unlocking the window from the inside and pushing it open. "If she's dead in there, I'm not waiting for the police to get a warrant." She climbed through the window and disappeared inside. I stood there, heart pounding, listening. Silence for a moment. Then I heard her voice from inside, muffled. "Oh God, Isolde." Then louder. "Call 911, now." I fumbled with my phone, dialed, told the operator the address and that someone had overdosed. They said an ambulance was already on the way. The sister must have called before she arrived. I could hear sounds from inside the duplex now, the sister talking frantically, trying to get a response. I climbed through the window after her, cutting my hand on the remaining glass. The interior was dark and smelled stale, like old cigarettes and something chemical I couldn't identify. I followed the sounds to a small bedroom at the back. Isolde was on the floor beside the bed, the prescription bottle empty beside her. Her skin was gray in the dim light, lips slightly blue. The sister was on her knees next to her, checking for a pulse. She's breathing, but barely. Where the hell is the ambulance? She started doing chest compressions, counting out loud. I stood in the doorway feeling useless and responsible and terrified. This was my fault. I'd driven her here. I'd waited while she bought those pills. I'd taken her money and asked no questions. Sirens approached from outside, growing louder. Red and blue lights flashed through the broken window. Paramedics came through the front door. Someone must have unlocked it from inside. They moved fast, professional, pushing us back as they worked on Isolde. One of them asked what she took. The sister held up the empty prescription bottle. The label was partially scratched off, but I could make out part of the word, something ending in done. The paramedic swore and called for something. They got an IV in her arm, administered something through it. The sister was crying, answering questions between sobs. How long had she been like this? Did she have a history? What hospital was she at before? I backed out of the room, into the narrow hallway. A police officer had arrived and was talking into his radio, giving details to someone. He saw me and asked who I was. I told him I was the rideshare driver. He took my information, asked me to wait outside for more questions. I went out through the front door this time, stepping into the growing morning light. More neighbors were coming out now, watching the scene. The ambulance was parked with its back doors open, ready to receive a patient. They brought Isolde out on a stretcher 10 minutes later, oxygen mask on her face, IV bag held high by one of the paramedics. She was unconscious, but they were moving with controlled urgency, not the frantic pace that meant someone was actively dying. The sister climbed into the ambulance with her and they pulled away, sirens wailing. The police officer came over to me. "I need to ask you some questions about tonight." He had a notebook out, pen ready. I told him everything. The hospital pickup, the pharmacy, the diner, the guy in the leather jacket, the cash payment, the fake address in the app. He wrote it all down without expression. When I finished, he asked if I could identify the guy who sold her the pills. I gave him the description, the car, the partial plate number I'd noticed when he pulled away. The officer nodded and said they'd be in touch if they needed anything else. "Is she going to be okay?" I asked. "Don't know. Depends how much she took and how long she was down before her sister found her." He closed his notebook. "You should have refused the ride when you saw the drug transaction." "I know. You could be charged with facilitating." My stomach clenched. I didn't know what she was going to do with them. I thought she was just someone in pain, trying to manage it. That's what they all think. He walked back to his patrol car and got in, drove away. I was left standing on the curb as the sun came up fully, bathing the neighborhood in golden light that made everything look deceptively peaceful. My phone buzzed. A notification from the Ride app. Complete your ride to receive payment. I looked at it, then threw the phone into my car in disgust. I sat in the driver's seat for a long time, not moving, just processing. The $200 in cash was still in my cup holder where I'd put it. Blood money. Guilt money. I thought about Isolde on that stretcher, thought about how different the night could have gone if I'd made different choices. If I'd insisted on taking her back to the hospital, if I'd refused to wait at the diner, if I'd questioned why she wanted to pay cash and avoid the app. My phone rang. I didn't recognize the number but answered anyway. It was the sister. She's stable. They gave her naloxone and she's breathing on her own. They're keeping her for observation and then she'll be transferred to a treatment facility. Whether she stays or not is up to her. Her voice was exhausted, flat. "I'm sorry," I said. You should have refused. You should have called me or the hospital or someone, but you didn't. And now my sister almost died again." She hung up. I drove home in the morning traffic. The city fully awake now, people going about their normal days. I parked in my usual spot and went inside, took a shower that didn't make me feel any cleaner. The cash sat on my kitchen counter and I stared at it, thinking about what to do with it. Donate it? Give it back? Keep it as a reminder? In the end, I left it there, untouched, a physical manifestation of the night's mistakes. The Ride app sent me several notifications throughout the day. Questions about the incomplete trip, a flag on my account for investigation, a message that my driving privileges were temporarily suspended pending review. I didn't fight it, didn't send explanations or appeals, I just let it happen. Maybe I'd drive again eventually, maybe I wouldn't. Right now, the thought of picking up another passenger at 3 a.m. made me sick. 3 days later, I got an email from the ride company. My account had been permanently deactivated due to violation of community guidelines and terms of service. Specifically, accepting cash payments outside the app, making unauthorized stops, and engaging with illegal activity. There was an appeal process, but I didn't use it. I was done. A week after that, I got a letter in the mail. It was from Isolde, just a few lines written in shaky handwriting on notebook paper. "I'm in treatment, 30-day program. I'm sorry I put you in that position. I've been doing this for 2 years, finding drivers who will look the other way, buying pills from dealers, lying about addresses. You were just the latest. It's not your fault, but I know you'll feel like it is. Try not to. I'm the one who made the choices that led me there. You were just trying to help. Thank you for that, even though it went wrong." I kept the letter on my refrigerator for a while, held in place by a magnet from a pizza place, a reminder of the night everything went sideways. Eventually, I took it down and put it in a drawer. But I still think about it, about her on that floor, about the sister's face when she found her, about the sound of sirens in the pre-dawn light. I got a different job after that, day shift at a warehouse. No passengers, no late nights, no moral ambiguity. Just boxes and pallets and schedules. It's boring, and it pays less, but I sleep better. Most nights, anyway. Sometimes I still wake up at 3 a.m. thinking about that hospital pickup, wondering what would have happened if I'd just declined the request. If someone else had picked her up instead, would they have made different choices? Better ones? Or would she have ended up on that floor regardless? The outcome already determined by forces bigger than any single rideshare decision. I don't know. I'll never know. All I know is that the night I picked up Isolde Penniman from Mercy Hospital, I stopped being just a driver and became part of someone's spiral. Not the cause of it, maybe, but not innocent either. Somewhere in between. in that gray space where good intentions meet bad outcomes, and nobody knows exactly where the blame should land. The $200 eventually got spent on groceries and gas, absorbed into my life like it had never meant anything. But the weight of it stayed with me, invisible and permanent. Every time I see an ambulance now, I wonder if it's her. Every time I pass a hospital at night, I think about emergency room doors and people leaving before they should. Every time I see someone in obvious pain, I wonder what I would do differently now. If I would do anything differently at all. The answer isn't clear. It never is. All I know for certain is that I won't drive strangers at 3 a.m. anymore. Won't wait in parking lots while transactions happen. Won't accept cash to look the other way. Small rules may be meaningless in the bigger picture. But they're the rules I have now, drawn in the aftermath of a night when all my previous rules proved insufficient. Isolde finished her treatment program. I know because her sister sent me a short email months later, just to let me know. She's been clean for 90 days, living in a sober house, working at a call center. She wanted me to tell you she's okay. I wrote back thanking her for the update, said I was glad Isolde was doing better. The sister never responded. I didn't expect her to. Sometimes I look up Mercy Hospital on a map and see the emergency entrance where I picked her up. The memory is vivid. The fluorescent lights, her slow walk to the car, the way she clutched her side. The beginning of a night that seemed simple and ended in sirens and guilt, and someone barely alive on a bedroom floor. I zoom out on the map until the hospital is just one building among thousands. The city a sprawl of streets and lights where countless interactions happen every day. Most of them meaningless, some of them tragic. A few of them the pivot points that change everything. I still don't know which kind mine was. If I was a minor character in Isolde's story or if she was a major one in mine. If the night mattered in the long run, or if it was just another bad decision in a long chain of them that would have happened with or without me. The uncertainty is its own kind of weight, heavier sometimes than guilt, because at least guilt has a clear direction. Uncertainty just spreads out in all directions, touching everything, resolving nothing. The warehouse job keeps me busy. I load trucks and unload deliveries and scan barcodes. Simple work. Clear metrics. No ambiguity about whether I'm doing it right. When the shift ends, I go home and the work stays behind. No rides to remember, no passengers to wonder about. Just hours traded for money in the most straightforward transaction possible. But late at night, when I can't sleep, I sometimes pull up old photos from my driving days. Not of Isolde, I never took photos of passengers. Just scenery. The city at night, empty streets, dawn breaking over the skyline. The visual record of thousands of hours spent behind the wheel, ferrying people from one point to another. Mostly forgettable, occasionally significant. I look at those photos and try to remember who I picked up on any given night, where they were going, what they said. Most of it's gone, erased by time and repetition. But that one night remains crystal clear, every detail sharp and permanent. Maybe that's the real punishment. Not the deactivated account or the guilt or the what-ifs. Just the clarity, the inability to forget. The way that one ride has defined all the others, cast them in a light that makes every choice suspect and every consequence foreseeable. I was a driver who thought he was helping someone in pain. I became a driver who facilitated an overdose. The distance between those two things turned out to be shorter than I ever imagined. Just one night, one series of decisions, one woman who knew exactly how to exploit the sympathy of strangers. I don't drive anymore. I won't drive anymore. But the night still drives through me, a route with no destination, Just endless circulation through the same streets, the same parking lots, the same moment when I should have said no and didn't. The map of my guilt, detailed and inescapable, 3 a.m. forever on the clock. The request pinged through at 11:47 p.m., just as I was thinking about calling it a night. Corporate pickup from Riverside Industrial Park, passenger name Lavinia Sorrell, destination to the airport. The fare estimate was solid, $28 for what looked like a 30-minute drive. Industrial parks at midnight were unusual but not unheard of. Plenty of businesses ran night shifts, warehouses operated around the clock, and sometimes corporate types worked late and needed rides. I'm Bramwell Cade, been driving 5 years now, mostly evenings and weekends to supplement my day income. I accepted the request and headed toward Riverside, a sprawling industrial complex on the eastern edge of the city near the river. The drive took 15 minutes through increasingly sparse neighborhoods until I reached the industrial park entrance. The gate was open, just a faded sign that said Riverside Industrial Park, with half the letters burned out. I drove in slowly, following the app's navigation. The park was huge. Dozens of warehouses and office buildings spread across what must have been 50 acres, connected by wide streets with no sidewalks. Most of the buildings were dark. A few had security lights on, but no signs of activity. The whole place felt abandoned, despite the occasional car parked in distant lots. The pin on my app led me deeper into the complex, past loading docks and chain-link fences, until I reached a cluster of older brick buildings that looked like they hadn't been updated since the 1980s. The pickup location showed Building 7C. I pulled up in front of it and parked, engine idling. The building was 3 stories, windows dark except for a faint glow on the ground floor that might have been emergency lighting or a night guard station. No signs, no company names, nothing to indicate what business operated here. I sent the "I'm here" notification and waited. 1 minute passed, then 2. I looked around the area. The nearest other building was at least 100 yards away, and I couldn't see any other vehicles. Just empty parking lots and the glow of distant highway lights beyond the fence line. My phone showed 12:04 a.m. now. The request had come in at 11:47, so the passenger had been waiting 17 minutes even before I arrived. Corporate pickups usually meant someone was ready to go, standing outside with luggage or a briefcase. This felt off. I called the number associated with the request. It rang 4 times and went to voicemail. Generic message, no personalization. I hung up and tried again. This time, someone answered on the second ring. "Hello?" A woman's voice, slightly breathless. "Hi, this is your driver. I'm outside Building 7C. "Oh, perfect. Thank you. I'm just gathering my things. I'll be right out. 2 minutes." She hung up before I could respond. I settled back to wait, keeping the engine running. The building's front entrance was visible from where I was parked. A glass door with a metal handle, the kind you'd need a keycard to unlock after hours. I watched it, expecting to see someone emerge. 2 minutes passed, then 5, then 10. I called again. No answer this time. I sent a text through the app. Still waiting outside Building 7C. No response. This was getting strange. I checked the app to see if I could contact the company that had made the request, but all it showed was the passenger name and a phone number. I tried calling one more time. It rang and rang, then went to voicemail again. I was about to cancel the ride when I saw movement near the building. Not at the front entrance, but around the side. A figure emerged from the shadows, walking toward my car. A woman in dark business attire, pulling a small, wheeled suitcase behind her and carrying what looked like a large box or package. She approached the passenger side and knocked on the window. I unlocked the doors and she opened the back door, hefting the box inside first. It was bigger than I'd thought, maybe 2 feet on each side, wrapped in brown paper and packing tape with no labels or addresses visible. She shoved it across the back seat, then climbed in after it, pulling the suitcase in last. "Sorry for the wait," she said, slightly out of breath. "Had to finish some paperwork." She was maybe late 30s, dark hair pulled back in a ponytail, wearing a blazer and slacks that looked wrinkled like she'd been wearing them all day. Her hands were stained with something dark. Ink, maybe, or grease. "No problem. Airport, right?" I confirmed the destination on my phone. "Yes, please, Terminal B if possible." "Sure thing." I put the car in drive and started heading back toward the industrial park entrance. In the rearview mirror, I could see her checking her phone, scrolling rapidly through messages. The box sat beside her, taking up most of the back seat. It shifted slightly as I turned a corner, and I heard something inside slide or rattle. She reached over and steadied it, keeping one hand on top like she was worried it might move again. We drove in silence for a few minutes, winding through the empty streets of the industrial park. The exit was ahead, the gate still open, the main road visible beyond it. Then my phone made a noise, not the usual notification sound, but something different. I glanced down, a new message in the app from the passenger. "Need to make quick stop first. We'll add extra tip." I looked at Lavinia in the mirror. She was staring at her phone, not looking at me. "Did you just send a message about making a stop?" She glanced up. "Yes, sorry. I forgot I need to pick up something from another building. It's just back there, won't take long, Building 12F. I frowned. The exit was right ahead. Going back into the industrial park meant another 10 minutes of winding through empty streets. "The airport's a 30-minute drive. If you have an early flight, I have time, and I'll pay extra for the detour. Please, it's important." Against my better judgment, I turned around before reaching the exit. The app updated with a new waypoint, Building 12F, which according to the map was on the opposite end of the industrial park. I followed the route, driving past dark building and empty lots again. Lavinia went back to her phone, typing rapidly. The box on the seat beside her shifted again with the motion of the car, and this time I heard a definite rattling sound, like loose items rolling around inside. "What's in the box, if you don't mind me asking?" I tried to keep my tone casual. "Just work materials, samples and documentation. Must be important to bring them on a flight. Very important." She didn't elaborate. We reached Building 12F at 12:26 a.m. It was similar to the first building, old brick construction, mostly dark, with a single security light over what looked like a loading dock entrance. But this building had something the other one hadn't. A black SUV with tinted windows parked near the dock, engine running, headlights on. I pulled up about 20 feet away from it and stopped. "This is it?" I asked. "Yes. Can you wait here? I'll just be a minute." She got out quickly, leaving her suitcase and the box in the back seat, and walked toward the SUV. As she approached, the driver's door opened and a man got out. He was tall, wearing dark clothing and a baseball cap pulled low. They stood between the two vehicles, talking, their voices too quiet for me to hear. The conversation looked tense. Lots of hand gestures from Lavinia, the man shaking his head, pointing back at my car. I didn't like this. Something about the setup felt wrong. A late-night meeting in an abandoned industrial park. A mysterious box, a detour from the original plan. I thought about the stories you hear. Drug deals and stolen goods and people using rideshare drivers as unwitting accomplices. I pulled out my phone and opened the app to cancel the ride, but before I could hit the button, Lavinia turned and walked briskly back to the car. The man got back in the SUV but didn't drive away. Just sat there, idling. Lavinia got in the back seat, breathing hard. "Okay, we can go now." "What was that about?" "Just coordinating a delivery. Nothing to worry about." "Are we still going to the airport?" "Yes. Please, let's go." There was an edge in her voice now, stress or fear or both. I put the car in drive and started heading back toward the exit. The SUV's headlights came on brighter, and it began following us, staying about 30 feet behind. I checked the mirror. It was maintaining that exact distance, not closing in but not falling back either. Lavinia noticed me looking and turned to see the SUV. "Why is he following us?" I asked. "He's not following us. He's just leaving at the same time." "Then, why is he staying exactly 30 feet behind us?" She didn't answer, just stared at her phone. I could see her hands shaking slightly. The SUV stayed with us through every turn, matching my speed exactly. When we finally reached the industrial park exit and turned onto the main road, the SUV turned too. Now we were on a 2-lane road with streetlights, heading toward the highway. The SUV remained behind us, same distance. "Lavinia, I need you to tell me what's going on." I kept my voice firm but calm. "If there's something illegal in that box, I need to know now." "There's nothing illegal." But her voice wasn't convincing. "Then why is that SUV following us? And why are your hands shaking?" She looked at her hands like she hadn't noticed they were trembling. "It's complicated. I just need to get to the airport. Can you please just drive?" I drove, but I was watching that SUV in my mirror more than I was watching the road ahead. We merged onto the highway and the SUV merged too, settling into the lane beside us but slightly back, pacing us. I could see there were at least 2 people in it now, the driver and someone in the passenger seat, both wearing caps, faces in shadow. The SUV had no front license plate, and the back plate was obscured by what looked like a deliberate cover, just the edge of letters visible. "I'm calling the police," I said, reaching for my phone. "No!" Lavinia leaned forward. "Don't do that, please. You'll make everything worse." "Worse than being followed by a car full of people who apparently want whatever's in that box you're carrying." "They don't want the box. They want—" She trailed off, then shook her head. "Just get me to the airport. Once I'm through security, they can't follow me anymore. I'll be safe." "What about me? I'm the one driving around with whatever this is." "You're fine. They don't care about you. You're just the driver." That phrase, "just the driver," hit me wrong. Like I was disposable. A tool to be used and discarded. I thought about stopping right there on the highway and telling her to get out, take her box and her suitcase and her problems with her. But we were doing 70 in the middle lane with traffic around us, and the SUV was right there. Stopping felt like the worst option. The airport exit was coming up in 3 miles. I moved into the right lane to prepare for it. The SUV moved into the right lane too, still maintaining that same 30-foot distance. My hands were sweating on the wheel. In the back seat, Lavinia had her phone pressed to her ear, talking in a low, urgent voice to someone. I couldn't make out most of what she was saying, just fragments. "Almost there," and "told you it would work," and "he doesn't know anything." We took the airport exit. The SUV took it too. Now we were on the airport access road, following signs toward Terminal B. The road curved through an area of parking garages and rental car facilities. Not as busy as daytime, but still enough traffic to make me feel slightly less isolated. The SUV dropped back a bit, putting a couple of other cars between us. Maybe they were worried about being too obvious in a more populated area. Terminal B appeared ahead, the departure level with its drop-off lanes and passenger loading zones. I pulled into the right lane, signaling to merge into the drop-off area. The SUV didn't follow this time. It continued straight, bypassing the terminal and heading toward the long-term parking structures. I felt a wave of relief. Maybe they'd given up. Maybe I'd been paranoid about the whole thing. I pulled up to the curb in the departure zone and put the car in park. Here we are, Terminal B. Lavinia was already grabbing her suitcase and the box. She struggled with both, the box being awkward and heavy. I got out to help, popping the trunk, but she waved me off. "I've got it, thank you." She managed to get both items out of the car and onto the curb, then pulled out her phone and tapped something. My app showed the ride was complete, payment processed. A $50 tip appeared, generous, probably meant to buy my silence or my forgetfulness. "Have a safe flight," I said, getting back in the car. She didn't respond, just started pulling her suitcase toward the terminal entrance, the box balanced on top of it. I watched her go, then pulled away from the curb and merged back into airport traffic. In my mirror, I saw her stop just inside the automatic doors, looking at her phone. Then my own phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Drive to Lot C, Level 3, Row J. Payment for delivery." I stared at the message. I hadn't delivered anything. I was just the rideshare driver. I deleted it and kept driving, following signs toward the airport exit. Another text came through. 5,000 cash. Lot C Level 3 Row J, 10 minutes. I deleted that one too. A third message. "Or we come to you." My stomach clenched. I looked in the mirror. The black SUV was behind me again, 3 cars back, having rejoined the airport traffic loop. It had never left. It had just gone to short-term parking to wait and see what I would do. Now it was following me again, and whoever was inside had my phone number and knew exactly what car I was driving. I thought about driving straight to a police station, but what would I tell them? A passenger had left a box in my car. No, wait, she'd taken it with her. Someone was following me, but doing nothing illegal, just driving on the same roads. I had text messages from an unknown number offering me money, which wasn't a crime. Nothing concrete, nothing they could act on. And if these people were willing to offer $5,000 for whatever was in that box, they were probably willing to do worse if I involved police. Against every instinct telling me not to, I followed the signs to Lot C. It was a massive parking structure, 7 levels, mostly empty at this hour. I drove up the ramps, Level 1, Level 2, Level 3. Row J was in the far corner, isolated and dark. Only a few cars parked in the entire section. I pulled into a spot and sat there, engine running, ready to leave at any moment. The SUV pulled in 20 seconds later and parked 3 spots away. The driver's door opened and the same man from the industrial park got out, followed by someone from the passenger side. They walked toward my car, not rushing but moving with purpose. I locked the doors. The driver knocked on my window. I lowered it 2 inches. "Where's the package?" he asked. His voice was flat, no accent I could place. She took it with her, into the terminal. He exchanged a look with the other man. "No, she didn't. We've been watching the whole time. She didn't take anything that big into the building." I watched her take it, suitcase and box. "Check your trunk." My heart sank. I popped the trunk release and got out of the car, walked around to the back. The trunk was open. Inside was the box, still wrapped in brown paper and tape. She must have put it there when I wasn't looking, probably when she was getting her suitcase out. The box I'd watched her take to the terminal was something else, maybe her suitcase or a decoy. This was the real package, and she'd left it with me. The 2 men were beside me now, looking at the box. One of them reached in and pulled it out, tested its weight. He nodded to the other man who pulled out a knife and cut through the tape, opening the top flaps. I couldn't see inside from my angle, but I saw their faces change. Satisfaction, maybe relief. The driver closed the box carefully and looked at me. She played you. This was the plan all along. Use a driver as a courier, someone with no connection to the deal. If anything went wrong, you take the fall. I didn't know. I just picked her up for a ride to the airport. Yeah, that's what makes it perfect. He pulled out a wad of cash and handed it to me. 5,000, like we said, for your trouble and your silence. I didn't take it. I don't want your money. Take it. You're part of this now, whether you want to be or not. Might as well get paid. He put the cash on top of my car. Forget you ever picked up anyone from that industrial park tonight. Forget you saw us. Forget the box, understand? I nodded, not trusting my voice. The two men carried the box back to their SUV, loaded it carefully into the back, and drove away. I stood there in the parking garage, cash sitting on my roof, trying to process what had just happened. I'd been used as a mule without even knowing it. Whatever was in that box, drugs, stolen goods, something worse, I'd transported it across the city, through security-free zones in a vehicle that was registered and trackable. If something had gone wrong, if police had pulled us over, I would have been the one holding evidence. I picked up the cash and looked at it. 50 $100 bills. More money than I made in 2 weeks of driving. Blood money. Evidence money. Money I couldn't spend without wondering what it was really payment for. I thought about throwing it in a trash can, but that felt stupid. Instead, I got back in my car and drove out of the parking garage, out of the airport complex, and back toward the city. The ride app showed the trip as complete. $50 tip from Lavinia Sorrell. 5-star rating she'd already posted. The address where I'd picked her up, Building 7C at Riverside Industrial Park, showed as a legitimate business location on maps, some kind of import-export company. The phone number she'd called from was probably a burner. There was no way to trace her or report what had happened without implicating myself. I drove home on autopilot, going through the motions while my mind raced. When I pulled into my apartment complex, I sat in the car for 10 minutes before going inside, watching every vehicle that passed, every shadow that moved. The $5,000 was in my glove compartment, hidden under insurance papers and old registration cards. I didn't know what to do with it. Spending it felt wrong. Keeping it felt dangerous. Reporting it meant explaining a story that made me look either complicit or criminally stupid. Inside my apartment, I locked every lock and pulled the blinds. I opened my laptop and searched for Lavinia Sorrell. Nothing came up except a generic LinkedIn profile with no photo and minimal information. I searched for Riverside Industrial Park Building 7C. The import-export company had a basic website that looked like it had been thrown together with a free template. Stock photos, vague descriptions of services, no real contact information except a phone number that went to voicemail. A front, probably. Or maybe a real business that got used for side deals. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Thank you for your cooperation. Destroy this message. I deleted it immediately and blocked the number. Another text came from a different number. We know where you live, Bramwell. Keep quiet. I deleted that too, blocked it, then turned off my phone completely and sat in the dark trying to decide if I was being paranoid or not cautious enough. The money stayed in my glove compartment for 3 days. I didn't drive, didn't accept any ride requests, didn't leave my apartment except to get food. I kept expecting something to happen. Police knocking on my door, or those men from the SUV showing up, or Lavinia herself appearing to explain what I'd really been transporting. Nothing happened. The silence was worse than confrontation would have been. It meant I didn't know if it was over or just beginning. On the 4th day, I took the money out and spread it on my kitchen table, counted it twice to make sure it was really 5,000. Then I divided it into 5 piles of 1,000 each. Over the next week, I deposited each pile into my account through ATMs in different neighborhoods, spacing them out so no single deposit would trigger bank scrutiny. The money dissolved into my balance like it had never existed as a separate thing. I used it to pay rent and bills and groceries, anonymous dollars that could have come from anywhere. But I remembered where they came from, remembered the weight of that box in my back seat, the way Lavinia's hands shook, the SUV following through empty streets at midnight. I remembered being just the driver, the disposable element in someone else's crime. The memory didn't fade with time. It just became part of the background noise of my life, a constant, low-level awareness that I'd crossed a line without meaning to and couldn't uncross it. I kept driving for the rideshare company, but I changed my habits. No more late-night pickups from industrial areas. No more corporate requests that seemed off. No more passengers with oversized packages or mysterious boxes. I stuck to restaurants and residential areas, daytime shopping trips and airport runs that happened in broad daylight. Safe rides. Boring rides. Rides where the worst thing that could happen was someone spilling coffee or leaving a bad rating. But sometimes, stopped at a red light or waiting for a passenger, I'd see a black SUV with tinted windows and my pulse would spike. I'd watch it until it turned or passed, confirming it wasn't them, never them, just someone else going about their normal life. The paranoia became routine. A thing I lived with, like checking door locks or looking over my shoulder in parking lots. The price of $5,000 and a night I couldn't undo. 6 months after it happened, I got a notification from the Ride app. A new request, pickup at Riverside Industrial Park, Building 7C, passenger name L. Sorrell. I stared at it until the request timed out. 20 seconds that felt like minutes. It pinged again immediately. Same location, same name. I declined it and immediately logged out of the app. Sat there in a gas station parking lot trying to calm my breathing. The request came through a third time to my backup phone, the one I kept for emergencies. Somehow, they had both numbers. Somehow, they were tracking me across devices. I didn't accept. I drove home and deactivated both accounts, deleted the apps, submitted requests to have all my data removed from the company's systems. I was done driving. Whatever they wanted, whoever Lavinia Sorrell really was or what she was involved in, I wanted no part of it. The $5,000 was long spent, absorbed into months of expenses and forgotten as specific bills. But the debt it represented felt unpaid, an obligation I'd never agreed to but couldn't escape. A week later, an envelope appeared in my mailbox. No return address, no postage, just my name handwritten on the front. Inside was a single piece of paper with an address I didn't recognize and a date and time. Tomorrow night, 11:30 p.m. Nothing else. No signature, no explanation. I burned it in my kitchen sink and flushed the ashes. I didn't go to that address. Didn't even look it up on a map. I stayed in my apartment with the lights off and the blinds closed, waiting for something to happen. Nothing did. The next morning, the same envelope was back in my mailbox. Same handwriting, same paper, same address. Different date. Tonight, 11:30 p.m. I took it to a police station, told an officer I was being harassed but couldn't explain the full context without incriminating myself. He took the note, said they'd investigate, gave me a case number that I knew would lead nowhere. I went home and waited. At 11:30 p.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. I didn't answer. It rang again, and again. The voicemails were silent, just dead air for 30 seconds before disconnect. At midnight, the calls stopped. An email arrived. You missed the appointment. That was a mistake. We'll be in touch. I blocked the sender. The email came from a different address. You can't block all of us. We're patient. We'll wait. I stopped checking email, stopped answering my phone unless I recognized the number. The harassment continued in small ways. Hang-up calls at odd hours, unmarked envelopes in my mailbox, once a text that was just a photo of my car parked outside my building. I thought about moving, but where would I go? They'd found me once. They could find me again. I thought about going to federal authorities, but explaining the situation meant admitting I'd transported something illegal, even if unknowingly. I was trapped in the aftermath of a decision I'd made without understanding what I was deciding. Just a driver. Just someone trying to make extra money on weekends. Now someone who checked his mirrors constantly and slept in shifts and trusted nothing. The $5,000 had seemed like a gift. Payment for trouble, compensation for risk. It turned out to be something else entirely. A hook, a connection, a debt that couldn't be paid off because it wasn't really about money. It was about having leverage, about keeping someone compromised and available for future use. I was an asset now, filed away in someone's network of useful people who'd already proven they could be manipulated. Sometimes I drive past Riverside Industrial Park on my way to my new job, a construction site where I run equipment and don't interact with anyone except my immediate crew. The entrance gate is still there, sign still partially burned out, buildings still mostly dark. I wonder if Lavinia Sorrell is real or just a name someone used once and discarded. I wonder if those men in the SUV were part of something organized or just opportunistic criminals. I wonder what was in that box and where it ended up and whether anyone got hurt because I transported it across the city without asking enough questions. But mostly I wonder when they'll need me again, because I know they will. The first request was a test. I passed by being clueless and compliant. Next time they'll know exactly what they can make me do, exactly how far I can be pushed before I break. And I'll do it because the alternative is worse. Exposure or violence, or something I haven't imagined yet, but they've already planned for. Just a driver, caught in machinery I can't see and can't stop, waiting for the next ping that will pull me back into someone else's crime. The money's gone. The fear remains. That's the real transaction. That's what I really bought with my silence and my willingness to look the other way. Not $5,000, not safety or closure. Just the certainty that some night, some year, maybe tomorrow or maybe never, my phone will buzz with a pickup request from Riverside Industrial Park, and I'll have to decide all over again what kind of person I'm willing to be when the alternative is consequences I can't afford. The ping came at 2:41 a.m. from a subdivision I'd never heard of. Meadowcrest Estates, out past the exurbs where the city bled into farmland and new construction. The passenger name was Maeve Hollander, and the pickup address showed clearly on my map, 847 Sycamore Terrace. The destination was a shopping center about 20 minutes away, one of those 24-hour places with a pharmacy and grocery store. I'm Cyrus Pembroke, been driving nights for 7 years, and I've learned to read the patterns. Late pickups from residential areas usually meant someone needed medicine or had a craving they couldn't ignore. Easy rides, quick money. I accepted the request and headed toward Meadowcrest Estates, driving through the quiet downtown, then out past the shopping centers that mark the edge of suburbia, and finally onto county roads where development sprang up between empty fields. My GPS guided me until I reached the entrance to the subdivision, a brick gateway with Meadowcrest Estates spelled out in bronze letters. No gate, no security, just the entrance and winding roads that disappeared into darkness. I followed the GPS through the subdivision, left on Willow Grove, right on Maple Ridge, straight through the roundabout onto Sycamore Terrace. The houses were large and identical, two-story colonials with three-car garages and manicured lawns. At 2:53 a.m., every house was dark except for occasional porch lights. I drove slowly, checking house numbers. 823 Sycamore, 831 Sycamore, 839 Sycamore. The numbers went up by eights, odd numbers on the right side. But when I reached where 847 should have been, there was no house number visible. The property was there. A colonial like all the others, completely dark, but the mailbox had no numbers. The house had no numbers on the door or garage, nothing to confirm this was the right address. I pulled over and checked my phone. The GPS pin sat directly on this house. But without a visible number, how could I be sure? I sent a message through the app. I'm outside, but I don't see a house number. Can you confirm? No response. I waited 2 minutes, then called. The phone rang and rang, no answer. I tried again. This time, someone picked up on the first ring but didn't say anything, just breathing on the other end. Hello? This is your driver. I'm outside, but I can't see a house number. Flash your lights 3 times. A woman's voice, quiet and tense. I flashed my headlights 3 times. Nothing happened. I waited. Then I saw it. In one of the upstairs windows, a light came on briefly, then off, then on again, then off. A signal. I see you, the voice said. Give me 2 minutes. The line went dead. I sat there watching the house. Everything about this felt wrong, but I couldn't pinpoint why. Just an absence of normalcy. No house numbers, no porch lights, the strange signaling system. I thought about canceling, but the 2-minute timer was already running. If she came out, I'd take her to the shopping center and be done with it. The front door opened, and a woman emerged, moving fast, pulling the door closed behind her without making noise. She wore jeans and a dark jacket, carrying nothing, no purse or bag. She got in the back seat quickly and said, "Go. Please, just go." Shopping center on Route 9? No. Change of destination. I need to go somewhere else. Her voice was shaking. Okay, where to? Just drive out of the neighborhood first. I'll tell you once we're away from here. I pulled away from the curb, checking my mirrors. No lights came on in the house. No other cars on the street. Just quiet darkness and identical houses passing by as I navigated back through the subdivision. In the rearview mirror, I could see Maeve looking out the rear window constantly, watching behind us. Her leg bounced nervously. Everything okay? I asked. Just keep driving. She turned back around and stared straight ahead. When you get to the main road, turn left instead of right, opposite direction from the shopping center. I followed the winding streets back toward the subdivision entrance, passing under streetlights that created pools of orange light between stretches of darkness. Maeve kept checking behind us, her head turning every few seconds. I watched my own mirrors more carefully now, looking for any cars that might be following. Nothing. The streets were empty. We reached the entrance and I turned left onto the county road as she'd instructed. Farmland on both sides now. No buildings, no lights except my headlights cutting through the darkness. Maeve exhaled slowly, like she'd been holding her breath. Okay, I need you to take me to the Greyhound station downtown. That's about 40 minutes from here. I know. I'll pay whatever it costs. Just please take me there. I updated the destination in the app and followed the route. We drove in silence for several minutes, the empty road stretching ahead of us. I kept glancing at her in the mirror. She'd stopped checking behind us as frequently, but her whole body was tense, hands gripped together in her lap. You need me to stop anywhere along the way? Gas station? Anything? No stops, just straight there. Got it. I turned on the radio low, some late-night talk show, just to fill the silence. She didn't object. We passed through dark countryside, past closed businesses and sleeping towns. About 15 minutes into the drive, I noticed headlights appear behind us. A truck, moving fast, closing the distance. I watched it in my mirror. It came up within a few car lengths, then slowed to match my speed. Maeve noticed me watching the mirror. She turned to look, saw the truck, and her whole body went rigid. That's him. Who? My husband. He followed us. Oh God, he followed us. Her voice rose with panic. Are you sure it's... That's his truck. I know it. The light bar on top, the lift kit, that's him. I looked again. It was hard to see details in the dark, but the truck did have a distinctive light bar mounted on the roof. It stayed behind us, matching my speed exactly. I accelerated slightly. The truck accelerated. I slowed down. The truck slowed down. What do you want me to do? I asked. Lose him, please. You have to lose him. On these roads, there's nowhere to... Please! She was crying now. If he catches up to us, if he gets me out of this car... I didn't need to hear more. I pressed harder on the gas, pushing from 60 to 70 to 80. The truck matched my speed, staying right behind us. These were country roads, 2 lanes, curves that weren't designed for this kind of speed. My hands tightened on the wheel. Up ahead, I saw lights. A small town, maybe just a cluster of buildings and a traffic light. I maintained speed as we approached the town, blowing through the single traffic light when it turned yellow. The truck followed, but now there were a few other cars on the road. Late-night drivers or shift workers. I wove between them, changing lanes, using them as obstacles. The truck stayed with us but had to slow slightly to navigate around a sedan that didn't see it coming. There's a police station in this town, I said, seeing a sign flash past. We can stop there. No, he's a cop. Well, not anymore, but he has friends. They won't help. They never help. Her voice was bitter and desperate. I didn't know what to believe, but I kept driving. The town fell away behind us and we were back in darkness, back on empty roads. The truck had closed the distance again during my moment of hesitation. I could see it clearly now in my mirrors, a large pickup with aggressive styling and that light bar across the top. The driver was a dark silhouette, but I saw his arm come out the window. He was pointing at us, gesturing for me to pull over. Don't stop, Maeve said. Whatever happens, don't stop. I pushed the car faster, hitting 90 on a road that probably had a 55 limit. The steering wheel vibrated in my hands. Every curve felt dangerous, like we might slide off into the fields on either side. The truck stayed with us, its larger engine and higher weight giving it stability my sedan didn't have. Then I saw something ahead that made my stomach drop. Road construction, 1 lane closed, a narrow passage between orange barrels and concrete barriers. I had to slow down or we'd crash. I braked hard, dropping to 40 as we entered the construction zone. The truck closed the gap instantly, now right on my bumper. In my mirror, I could see the driver clearly for the first time, a large man with a shaved head, his face twisted with anger. The construction zone lasted for maybe a quarter mile, though it felt like forever. The truck bumped my rear bumper once, a light tap, a warning. Maeve screamed. I gripped the wheel tighter, trying to maintain control. We came out of the construction zone and I immediately floored it again, the car lurching forward. But the truck was faster now, pulling alongside us in the oncoming lane. I looked over and the driver was gesturing, yelling something I couldn't hear through the closed windows. His face was red, veins visible on his neck. He swerved his truck toward us, forcing me onto the shoulder. Gravel sprayed up, pinging against the undercarriage. I yanked the wheel back, almost overcorrecting into the truck. He swerved in again, more aggressive this time. "He's going to run us off the road," I shouted. Maeve was sobbing in the back seat, hands over her face. The truck pulled slightly ahead of us and then cut across my lane, brake lights flashing. I had to brake hard to avoid rear-ending him. He slowed down, forcing me to slow down, boxing me in. My speed dropped to 50, then 40, then 30. Behind us, I saw headlights approaching. Another vehicle. The truck driver saw it too and accelerated away suddenly, pulling back into the proper lane. The approaching car passed us going the other direction, oblivious to what they'd just interrupted. I took advantage of the moment and yanked the wheel to the right, taking an unexpected turn onto a side road. The truck's brake lights flared, but he overshot the turn. I accelerated down the side road, which was even narrower and darker than the main road. Behind us, I saw the truck reversing, preparing to follow, but we had maybe a 30-second lead. "Where does this road go?" Maeve asked, her voice hoarse from crying. "I have no idea. I'm just trying to lose him." The side road wound through more farmland. No buildings, no intersections, just darkness and fields. My GPS was trying to recalculate, but we were in a rural area with spotty coverage. The screen kept buffering, unable to find a route. I just drove, following the road wherever it led, checking my mirrors constantly. No headlights behind us yet. Maybe we'd lost him. Then the road ended. Just stopped at a T intersection with no signs, no indication which direction led to civilization. I had to make a choice, left or right. I went right, purely on instinct. The new road was even worse, unpaved in sections, full of potholes that made the car bounce and rattle. We were deep in the countryside now, miles from anything, and I was completely lost. "We need to find a main road," I said. "Get back to areas with people and lights. He'll find us again. He always finds me." I thought leaving in the middle of the night would work, but he must have been watching the house. He's been watching for weeks, waiting for me to try something. "How long have you been planning to leave?" "Months. I tried twice before, but he caught me both times. This was supposed to be different. I waited until he was passed out drunk, snuck out without waking him. But he must have had alarms set or cameras. I don't know how he knew." We drove for another 10 minutes, trying different roads, searching for anything that looked like it would lead back to the highway. The GPS was useless, still buffering. I was navigating by intuition and luck. Then, finally, I saw lights ahead. A gas station, oasis in the darkness. I pulled in and parked under the brightest lights near the entrance where cameras would see us. "Stay here," I told Maeve. "I'm going to ask for directions and call for help. Don't leave me alone, please. I'll be right inside. You can see me through the window." I went in quickly. A clerk behind the counter looked up from his phone. I asked him how to get back to the highway. He gave me directions, left out of the parking lot, 3 miles to the intersection, right onto Route 14, follow it east. Simple enough. I thanked him and turned to leave, then stopped. Through the window I could see the parking lot. Maeve was standing outside my car now, backing away from it. And the truck was there, parked sideways behind my car, blocking it in. The driver was out, walking toward her. I ran outside. The driver saw me coming and stopped. He was huge, at least 6'3" and heavily built, wearing a tight black t-shirt and jeans. His face was flushed, eyes wild. "This doesn't concern you," he said, his voice a low growl. "Get back in your car and leave. She's my passenger. I'm not leaving without her. She's my wife. I'm taking her home." Maeve was pressed against the gas station wall now, looking for an escape route. "I'm not going back. I'm not." The man took a step toward her. I moved to block him, though I knew if it came to a physical confrontation I'd lose badly. He was twice my size. But I stood there anyway, phone in hand, ready to call 911. "You call the cops and I'll tell them she's having a mental health crisis," he said, reading my intention. "She's unstable, needs to be taken to a facility for evaluation. I'm her husband, and I have the legal right to make medical decisions for her. They'll side with me. They always do." "That's not true," Maeve said. "I'm not unstable. I just want to leave. I have the right to leave. We made vows, in sickness and health, for better or worse. You don't just walk away from that in the middle of the night. I walked away because you hurt me, because you control everything I do, everyone I see, because I'm not safe with you." His face darkened. "I never laid a hand on you. There's more than one way to hurt someone." They stared at each other, years of something toxic and broken hanging in the air between them. I looked between them, trying to figure out what was true. He seemed sincere, hurt even. She seemed terrified but also determined. I had no way to know who to believe. "Look," I said carefully, "I'm just a driver, but my passenger wants to complete her ride. That's all I care about. Your passenger is my wife having an episode. She needs to come home." "I'm not having an episode." Maeve's voice cracked. "Cyrus, please, please, just get me out of here. He's going to take me back and I'll never get another chance to leave." The man took another step forward. I pulled out my phone and dialed 911, kept it visible so he could see. "I'm calling the police. They can sort this out." "Go ahead. Like I said, they'll take my side." The phone rang and rang. No answer. I tried again, same thing. We were so far out in the country that emergency services probably took forever to respond, if they even had coverage out here. The man smiled, seeing my frustration. "See? We're on our own out here. Now step aside and let me talk to my wife." I didn't move. We stood in a triangle. Him, me, Maeve against the wall, under the harsh fluorescent lights of the gas station. A car pulled up to the pumps, and a tired-looking woman got out to fill her tank. She glanced at our standoff but didn't intervene, just pumped her gas and left quickly. The clerk stayed inside, watching through the window but not coming out. "I'll make this simple," the man said. "You walk away right now, and I'll forget this happened. You'll get paid for the ride, no problems, no complications. Or you keep interfering in something that's none of your business, and there will be consequences." "What kind of consequences?" He smiled without warmth. "I know people. People who can make your life very difficult. Your car has your personal information in it. Registration, insurance, probably your address. I can find out everything about you in 5 minutes. Is helping a stranger worth that risk?" It was a threat, clear and direct. I thought about my life, my apartment, my routine, my relatively stable existence. Getting involved in domestic situations was always messy. There were no good answers, no clear heroes or villains. Just complicated people in complicated situations. But I looked at Maeve, saw the fear in her eyes, the desperation. She'd risked everything to try to leave. Who was I to let her be dragged back? "I'm taking my passenger to her destination," I said. "Move your truck." The man's jaw clenched. For a moment I thought he was going to hit me. Then he turned and walked back to his truck, got in, and sat there with the engine running. He didn't move the truck, just sat there blocking my car in, waiting. I walked over to Maeve. "We need to call someone. Family, friends, anyone who can come help." "I don't have anyone." He made sure of that. Isolated me from everyone over the years. "What about a women's shelter? There must be services. In this county?" "The nearest one is 50 miles away and they're full. I tried calling last week." We were stuck. The truck blocked us in. The man wasn't leaving, police weren't coming, and I couldn't fight him physically even if I wanted to. I thought through options, trying to find a solution that didn't end with Maeve being forced back into a situation she'd risked everything to escape from. "The Greyhound station," I said. "That's where you were headed. When does the next bus leave?" She pulled out a crumpled paper from her pocket, checked it. 6:15 a.m., about 2.5 hours from now. "And you have a ticket?" "No, but I have cash. I was going to buy it there." An idea formed, desperate, probably stupid, but the only thing I could think of. "The clerk inside, let me talk to him." I went back into the gas station. The clerk was still watching out the window. I asked him if there was a back way out of the parking lot, something other than the main entrance. He pointed to a service road that ran behind the building, used by delivery trucks. It wasn't gated, just graveled and dark. I asked if I could drive out that way. He shrugged, said it wasn't his property, not his problem. I went back outside. The man was still in his truck, watching. I walked to Maeve and spoke quietly. "When I tell you, get in the car as fast as you can. We're going out the back way. He'll follow us. Maybe. But it might take him a few seconds to realize what we're doing. That's all we need to get a head start." She nodded, fear and hope mixing on her face. I walked casually back to my car, got in, started the engine. The man watched but didn't react. I put the car in reverse, backed up a few feet like I was just repositioning. Then I gestured to Maeve. She ran to the car and jumped in. Before the man could process what was happening, I threw the car into drive and accelerated toward the back of the building, following the clerk's directions to the service road. The truck's engine roared to life behind us. I hit the service road doing 40, gravel spraying. The road was rough, full of potholes that made the car bounce violently. In my mirror, I saw the truck's headlights appear, the light bar blazing on, turning night into day. He was coming fast. The service road connected to another county road about 100 yards behind the gas station. I didn't slow down at the intersection, just yanked the wheel and barely made the turn, tires sliding on loose gravel. The truck was maybe 50 feet behind us now. I floored it, engine screaming, pushing the car past its limits. The road ahead was dark and winding, impossible to see more than a few seconds ahead. We flew through the darkness, both vehicles going dangerously fast on roads that weren't made for it. I took turns too sharp, overcorrecting each time, the car fishtailing. Behind us, the truck stayed close, its superior power and weight giving it an advantage. We were going to crash or get caught, one or the other. I couldn't keep this up much longer. Then, incredibly, I saw lights ahead. Not just a gas station or house, but lots of lights. Buildings. We'd stumbled back toward civilization, maybe the outskirts of a town. I slowed just enough to control the car and turned onto a larger road, one with streetlights and painted lines. Traffic lights ahead. A few other cars. The truck followed but dropped back slightly, maybe worried about being too obvious in populated areas. I pulled into a convenience store lot, parked near the entrance where cameras and people would see us. The truck drove past slowly, the driver staring at us through his window. He didn't stop though, just kept going, disappearing around a corner. I sat there gripping the wheel, hands shaking, heart pounding. "Is he gone?" Maeve asked. "For now, but I don't know if he'll come back." We sat in silence for a moment, both trying to catch our breath. Dawn was starting to break, the sky lightening from black to deep blue. I checked the time, 5:47 a.m. The Greyhound station was about 30 minutes away if we took main roads. We might make it for the 6:15 bus. "Let's go," I said. "Quickly before he finds us again." I drove toward downtown, taking the most populated routes I could find, staying on major roads with traffic even at this early hour. Maeve watched behind us constantly, but the truck didn't reappear. Maybe he'd given up. Maybe he was taking a different route, planning to cut us off. I drove faster, pushing through yellow lights, making turns without signaling. The Greyhound station appeared ahead, a squat concrete building with buses parked along the side. I pulled up to the entrance and Maeve jumped out. "Thank you. Thank you for not giving up. Get your ticket and get on that bus. Don't wait around." She nodded and ran inside. I sat there watching the street, ready to leave if the truck appeared. Minutes ticked by. At 6:12, she came back out, waved at me, and walked quickly toward the buses. I saw her board one, saw the door close behind her. At 6:16, the bus pulled out, heading towards the highway. She was gone. I drove away, exhausted and wired with adrenaline. The sun was fully up now, morning traffic starting, the city waking up. I headed home, checking my mirrors constantly, half expecting to see the truck behind me. But there was nothing. Just normal cars going normal places. The Ride app showed the trip as complete, though the route on the map looked insane. All those detours and back roads, the chase documented in GPS coordinates. The fare was $23. Maeve had left a $100 tip and a 5-star rating with a comment. Saved my life. Literally. I stared at it, not sure how to feel. Proud, scared, complicit in something I didn't fully understand. I never found out if she made it to wherever she was going. Never knew if the man found her again, or if she finally got free. The story ended for me when that bus pulled away. But for her, it was probably just beginning. A new life, or the same life, somewhere different. Always looking over her shoulder. Always wondering if this time she'd finally escaped, or if he'd find her again like he promised. I kept driving after that, but changed my patterns. No more pickups from subdivisions without numbers. No more rural routes in the middle of the night. No more rides that felt off, even if I couldn't explain why. I'd learned that some passengers carried more than luggage, and sometimes helping meant getting pulled into situations way beyond what you signed up for. The money wasn't worth it. The risk wasn't worth it. But looking back, knowing I'd at least given her a chance, maybe that was worth something.